Good morning, everybody. Jim Feist and Joe Mac in New York City. Joe, good morning.
Hello, Jim. How's everything? We're getting ready for some more football preseason. We were chatting about it before the show. You know, we really just want to get right on to the regular season, but we'll plow our way through a couple more weeks of preseason, and then we'll finally be there.
Well, preseason's been good to me so far, but, it is difficult because you're trying to navigate through the mess and the minutia of all this and who's going to play, who's not going to play. It really comes down a lot, we talked about a little earlier, to the backup quarterbacks. Who has the better backup quarterbacks, and are they going to be facing a first, second, or third string defense when they get into the game? Because a lot of these backups are pretty good if they're not facing a number one defense. And because your second and third string defenses really don't have game plan and they haven't worked together that well. So it's easier for a backup to put up points. I think we saw that the other night with San Francisco and Denver, where the backup quarterbacks just ate them alive in the second half. And you see a lot of that. Down in Miami, we have a battle between Fitzmagic and Rosen. And with Jacksonville, you have pretty good defense, and Foles hasn't played much, but you expect him to be in the game a little bit. But again, how far? Is it going to be like 2-3 series, and then the rest of the time it's backup stuff? I mean, Jacksonville's offense has not produced much, so you get a lot of that. And then you got the Jets, to me, the Jets have looked pretty good, but how much are they going to play this week against the Saints, and how much are the Saints going to protect their starting quarterback? Because they have some pretty good backups on that team, so that's a key for them. I mean, it's really a lot of work in the preseason. You can get a bigger return on investment, in my opinion, in the preseason, but the work, it does take a lot of work.
That's true. And you know what, Jim Hurley's network, we've done pretty good so far in the preseason. I don't mean to look down on the preseason, but let's face it, and we've done pretty good with totals. We had under in the game in Hawaii last week with the Cowboys-Rams. It looked like it was going to start out as an under. It was 7-7 late first quarter, and the total had come crashing down to like 35 points, but it didn't easily go under as it turned out in a 14-10 Dallas winner. We've done very well on the totals with Jim Hurley's network, and we've done decently with the sides. But like you said, Jim, you really don't even know what you're going to get sometimes. I mean, some of these teams that I'm not watching live, I check out the box score and whatever right after the game, and you see, Phillip Rivers didn't play at all, Aaron Rodgers didn't play at all, Drew Brees didn't play. You used to, I mean, I'm sure people out in our audience are all old enough to remember. I mean, you get to week 2, your starting quarterback is going to play probably a quarter, maybe into the second quarter. You get to week 3, your starting quarterback's going to play at least the first half, and then you make your decisions. We're seeing so many coaching maneuvers where they're not playing their starting quarterback at all, and a lot of them don't want to risk their starting players. I mean, we've seen what Matt Nagy has done with the Bears, didn't even play any starters against the Giants last week. We talked about it last week when the Rams went out there to Honolulu to play the Cowboys. They didn't even put about 30 players on the plane. So you really have to dig down. Sometimes, let's face it, that you can act like, you do your homework and stuff, but sometimes you don't know what a coach is going to decide, even at the last minute, who's he going to go with. I mean, we saw a couple of weeks ago the Houston Texans went with a quarterback, Joe Webb, and he played the whole game. I mean, you never see that in the preseason. So they didn't want to risk Deshaun Watson of the game in Green Bay 2 weeks ago. They played Joe Webb the whole game. We see more and more coaches go with backups and third stringers for more chunk of time. And I'll tell you what, it's been a little eye-opening, too. Before the show started, we kicked around a couple of teams. The Cincinnati Bengals are, I think, pleasantly surprised with what they're getting out of their rookie quarterback Ryan Finley from NC State. He's looking pretty good. You get some other teams getting an idea that, hey, maybe they've got a more solid second-string guy than they do. I mean, the Colts, they figure that Jacoby Brissett's going to be their backup if Luck is okay. I think Luck will probably be good to go for week 1, but we have to see. But again, we've also seen teams have a ton of injuries in the quarterbacking. The Eagles, they wound up starting Josh McCown. You've got a couple other teams here that have just had multiple injuries with their quarterback. So, long story short, I don't blame coaches for not going with their quarterbacks. But, there's so few real intense practices these days that, these guys going to be ready? I mean, is Matt Ryan going to be ready week 1 for Atlanta? Is Trubisky for Chicago? I mean, doesn't he need to take some snaps? I don't know, but this is how they're handling it. And, they know their teams and their players better than I do, but I have a feeling we're seeing more and more NFL teams, and especially the quarterbacks, not really get warmed up until they're like 2 weeks into the regular season. And that gets a little dicey. You don't like to get off to an 0-2 start because your quarterback didn't get enough snaps in the summertime, but I think we're going to see that in a few instances this year.
Well, I agree. When you look at it, it's hard to... The quarterback position gets all the ink, and of course they get a lot of the money. It's tough to find 32 quality quarterbacks for starters in the NFL to begin with, and then when you start getting injuries and have to go to your backups, if you want to be a contender, you have to have a backup ready, and because these guys are going to get dinged up, and they're going to have to come in for a half or a full, or maybe even play several games. Now, we're looking already at Andrew Luck. Who the heck knows what's going to happen with him? He missed 2 years, a previous injury. And you look out of San Francisco with Garoppolo. I mean, he missed a lot of time. And now that he's back playing, he looks absolutely horrible. But I like their backups in Beathard and Mullins. They could do some damage, and they may be ready to step up. Who knows? It depends on whether you're talking about A quality quarterbacks or B quality quarterbacks. And sometimes maybe this league is going to go through a lot of Bs for a while until they develop or get new draft picks. So there's going to be a lot of transition. I think it's going to be an interesting year. I think the parity is going to show up, except for a few teams. I mean, there's a couple bad ones out there that may not win 2 or 3 games for the whole year, but it's going to be good. I personally would like to stop the preseason after week 3 and move right into the regular season. I'm kind of ready for that, and I think week 4 will be a mess anyway if nobody plays anybody. Normally, week 4 nobody plays anybody, so it's and now we got 2 college football games coming up this weekend. And then the following week. So what happens here is we might end up, and I know we will, taking a lot of our attention away from week 4 of the preseason and going and spending more time looking at the college game and a little bit more in the baseball playoffs because they're coming into focus as well. There's a lot of situations in baseball where you got some teams that are really battling for those wild card positions, and so that's interesting too. It's a great time, and preseason, and of course, if we don't want to talk about football, we can always talk about Antonio Brown.
That's true. Although I really think even Antonio Brown's family is tired of talking about Antonio Brown. But if I have to hear one more thing about his feet or his helmet or his whatever grievances he has, I mean, enough's enough. I mean, really, I was listening to a sports talk show in New York yesterday, and the host, who's been on the air for years and years, said basically, and I agree, I guess I'm getting to be an old crotchety guy, but enough's enough with these prima donna wide receivers and what they think and what they say. You know what? Catch the ball, get your team into the winning column, show me that you're, not to compare and say to Julian Edelman, but I mean, just to take a guy that's a Super Bowl MVP, a guy that's a champion player, and okay, he's had his issues with whatever, he's a bit of a hothead on the field, but I mean, the guy's a champion. He's not a prima donna. I mean, enough for hearing about Antonio Brown and Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, Beckham has been traded away from the Giants for a few months now, and yet every day in the New York tabloids there's some sort of, large or small, there's some sort of Odell Beckham story or quote or something. Enough's enough. I mean, here's my advice to him. Stay on the field for 16 games. Don't fudge some injuries. Last year he had a quad injury in week like 12 or 13. He never came back on the field. I know for a fact Giant people thought he was good to go in the last at least 2 games and decided he didn't want to re-injure it. You know what? I don't want to hear from these guys anymore. Show me that you're a champion. Win your playoff games. If you're Antonio Brown, improve an Oakland Raiders team that, as we said last week, Jim, they're a lot of mix and match, kind of a misfit toy operation as they were for many years under Al Davis. You know what? If you're Antonio Brown, go there, catch 100 passes from Derek Carr, score 10, 11 touchdowns, maybe get the Raiders to be a 500 team, and enough of the other bellyaching and everything. So, like I said, there's way more things to talk about. I'll tell you one thing. We just touched on the quarterback, and I just want to kind of wrap that part of it up. I wrote a column yesterday for JimHurley.com. We're up there every day with our Jim Says. We call it a Jim Says column. And I wrote about 3 NFL teams and what they should do with their quarterbacks. Again, they know their players far better than I do. But if the Arizona Cardinals think that Kyler Murray is ready, forget about it. I know Brett Hundley is not, Bart Starr, but Brett Hundley should be the starting quarterback for Arizona week 1, not Kyler Murray. And as far as 2 other places, there's no way Dwayne Haskins is ready in Washington. I think the guy's going to be a good pro quarterback, but not yet. He's still too raw, too many bad decisions in the preseason. And Josh Rosen should be the quarterback for Miami. What are they going to prove with Fitzpatrick playing there? I mean, okay, might he give him a win or 2? I mean, I saw the coach, the rookie coach, Brian Flores, basically saying it's Rosen that's not ready for the regular season. Fine, but the Dolphins are a 5-11 type of team. What are you going to accomplish by playing Fitzpatrick? So I'm just putting my little money on the line here that I say it should be Hundley and not Murray in Arizona. It should be Case Keenum and not Haskins in D.C., and it should be Rosen, not Fitzpatrick in Miami. Probably I'll be wrong on all 3 to start the season, but it remains to be seen how these teams go. Should they go with the guys that I don't think should be starting?
Well, actually, I think you're going to be right in Washington. I think it's going to be Case Keenum. They might have gone with Colt McCoy, but the injury stopped that. I don't think they're going to play Haskins week 1. I think it's going to be Keenum. And quite frankly, I agree with you. I should be Keenum. You got teams. You mentioned 3 teams. Of course, Washington, you just don't know because their defense is reasonably solid. And if Keenum is the quarterback, he has enough wherewithal. He 3,800 yards passing last year. He could pull out. The question there in the East is: are the Giants or Washington going to be the bottom team in that league? Or in that division, I should say, because everybody concedes it's going to be Dallas and Philadelphia battling for number 1 spot in that division. Of course, Dallas has got its issues too with the holdouts and the contract issues they have. Have to sign Dak. They got to sign Amari Cooper, and they got this the outsider in Zeke saying, "Hey, I want a new contract, even though I have 2 years on mine." So that's another issue. And one of the problems with the divas in all the sports is that they get so much money in the bank that they don't have to work hard anymore, and that is a problem. And you're paying somebody $30-40 million a year, even if it's 20 or 10. I mean, still, God, that's a lot of money. All of a sudden, their motivation goes out the window.
You're right. And I'll tell you one thing: we're talking about guys getting the big dollar in NFL quarterbacks. Let's face it, Kirk Cousins better win, has to win. I didn't realize that his numbers, and I know his passing numbers, his statistic numbers were pretty good last year. But I didn't realize until I watched their game the other day that against Seattle, when they put a little graphic up and showed what his record is against winning teams as a pro quarterback, obviously most of that time with Washington, 1 year with Minnesota. I mean, I'm probably going to say the number wrong, but I want to say it was like 5-20 or something against winning teams. I mean, this guy right now, Jim, to me, I mean, okay, it's Minnesota. It's not a big market like the LA teams, New York, Chicago. Let me tell you, Kirk Cousins has more pressure on him to produce this year than any player in the NFL. He can can put up his stats. He can be 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Wonderful. If the Vikings don't have a good year, they're not playoffs again. We've talked about that division. It's tough. I think the Bears are going to win the NFC North. I think the Packers are going to be right there. But if the Vikings don't produce like a 10-6 season, go to the playoffs or something, and do something, I mean, Kirk Cousins is going to get lambasted because, I mean, he's making such an ungodly salary, and he's really never proven anything as a pro quarterback. I mean, he might put the numbers up, but they don't win. And I think he's got as much pressure as any quarterback at all in this 32-team league, and we're going to see how he fares right from the start. I know he's got great wide receivers. Thielen and Diggs are top-notch. Both are potential Pro Bowl players and whatnot. He's got a couple of tight ends now. His running game, as long as Dalvin Cook stays healthy, I mean, what I'm saying is he has no excuse. That team, to me, better be 10 wins minimum, probably better win at least a playoff game. Otherwise, he's going to really be feeling a lot of national heat this year.
Well, it comes down to I agree with you. The only problem I say there is you have a couple teams in that division that can actually play some football. The Bears and the Packers are pretty strong, and you could end up third behind those two teams, and not make the playoffs, and that wouldn't necessarily be on Cousins. You don't win necessarily. I mean, I remember a guy like Dan Fouts was as good as anybody, and he just didn't have the team around him. And a lot of times that happens. I'm not a big Kirk Cousins fan necessarily. I really don't want my money on him to pull out a victory against a really good team. Can he play? Yes, he can play. Is he making a lot of money? Yes, he's making a lot of money. But you have to have the tools around him. What you mentioned, though, he's got the wide receivers, he's got the tight ends, he's got the running back. If he has the offensive line, he should produce a lot of points. And there really would be no excuse unless, of course, the head coach just doesn't do a good job.
That's true. I can buy that. And I'll say this for Cousins. I mean, you haven't heard any excuses or whatever. I mean, last year's team underachieved and whatnot. And you're right in that division. But you know what? This is why he's getting paid the big bucks. If he does get the protection in front of him, let's face it, an offensive line that has had a lot of moving and shaking in the last couple of years, a lot of personnel changes. But he's getting the big bucks. Let's see him, split with the Bears and maybe sweep the Packers and sweep the Lions. In other words, don't go 3-3 in the division, wind up 9-7 and be on the outside looking in, and then look at the end of the year and say, well, we could have won this game. We could have. You know what? Let's see it. I mean, he's one of the highest paid players around. He's got the talent, like we said, on hand. Let's see it. And I'll be the first to admit, when Cousins came out of college, and we all know the story, he was not the apple of the eye of the Redskins back then. It was Griffin from Baylor, the Heisman Trophy winner. But so if you want to look at it that way, Cousins is a fourth-round pick that's overachieved. But now he's in the prime of his career. To me, he should be in the top 10 type of quarterback rating. Like you said, I don't always trust him. I don't always buy his regular stats. To me, get in the end zone or not. I guess certain games stand out to me. A couple of years ago when he was on the Redskins, all he had to do was beat a very average to below average Giants team in the week 17. He couldn't do it. I just want to see it. I just want to see him win some of these games that he's been losing his whole pro career. I mean, when you have a winning percentage of like 250 against over 500 teams, to me, you've got something to prove. So he's got a lot to prove this year.
I'll say that. Is there, just not to drag this out too long, but baseball, is there anything that you want to bring up real quick in the races for the wild cards or divisions?
Well, I'll tell you, you touched on the wild card. The National League, it truly is wild. I mean, none of those teams are great teams. I mean, you've got basically some combination of the Cubs, Cardinals, and Brewers in the Central. You've got the Mets, Phillies in the East, and you've got Arizona and San Francisco hanging around from the West, from the NL West. Everybody seems to get on a hot streak, cold streak, but I'll tell you one thing that's really true for most of these teams. Their bullpens are really terrible. And so to me, the key down the stretch here, we've got, 37, 38 games to go basically for every team. when I'm checking the box scores and I'm watching these games, I want to see these teams whose pitchers make it into the eighth inning, at least make 7 innings. I mean, we saw a terrible managing by Washington's Dave Martinez. He took Strasburg out after 7 innings, and I believe he threw 90 pitches or something, maybe not even 90 pitches, took him out, and the Nationals bullpen blew it. So that's my key in this NL wildcard race. What starting staffs can give a little length, can show you something. Right now, I would have to favor the Mets. 5 guys that they put out there, leading with DeGrom. I mean, he's still one of the top 5 pitchers in baseball. And I wouldn't totally, even though they traded away Greinke at the trade deadline, I wouldn't count out Arizona. They were a pretty gritty bunch. They get some decent starts down the stretch from Mike Leake, who they acquired from Seattle at the deadline. They can hang around, too. I don't trust teams like Washington necessarily. The bullpen is just too leaky. I don't totally trust the Cubs at times with that bullpen. Kimbrel has been nothing special since they signed that big contract. So we're going to see what teams show some stuff. Right now, there's way too many bullpens in the National League that are flopping on their face night after night. So let's see how many pitchers here can give teams 7-8 innings. If Scherzer comes back for Washington and can stick in that rotation and pitch every 5 days, the Nationals still could get a wild card. But right now, I'd be looking more at the Mets and probably the survivor between the Cubs and the Cardinals, with Arizona hanging right in there.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very interesting. It is exciting. Next time we talk, we'll look for some dark horses in the NFL. We always know that there's a couple teams each year that go from last to first, or near first, and it could be interesting. We'll look at some dark horses after this weekend of NFL preseason. And, Joe, what do you have going on at Jim Hurley this week?
We got a lot going on. We've got, obviously, the NFL preseason week 3. A lot of games starting with 6 games on the Thursday card. All folks have to do is call us toll-free, 1-800-323-4453. Again, that's toll-free number, 1-800-323-4453. Or check us out online, jimhurley.com. That's Jim, HURLEY.com. Like I said, we've done very well in preseason for years. We had a great college football season last year. Obviously, you touched on it, Jim. We've got 2 college games on Saturday, including a nice Florida versus Miami game on a neutral field in Orlando. We're definitely going to have a play on that. We give out sides, we give out totals, and we do a lot of winning. So 1-800-323-4453. That's Jim Hurley's network. He's been around since 1985. I've been with him for the last 25 years. And let's just say we win a lot more than we lose.
All right. Well, congratulations on that record for all those years. And good luck this weekend. We'll talk. Maybe we'll catch up again on Saturday after some of these games are over, Joe.
Sounds good. Okay. Always nice talking to you, Joe.
Good talking to you, Joe. Thank you. And make sure you check out JimHurley.com for Joe Mac and all they got going on over there. They've done very well. And we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, everybody.